The next topic we'll take up is the topic of alienation. So we'll understand what is alienation, what has been some of the concepts given by other thinkers related to alienation. Then we'll understand what Marx talks about alienation, how his theory of alienation is different, what are the ways this is manifested, and what are some of the criticism of Marx theory. So this is what we're going to cover in this session. So we'll first understand what is the process of alienation and what are the existing theories. Now Hegel, he talked about alienation. Now as we know, Hegel gives a lot of importance to spirit, the mind. So again, Hegel says that alienation results due to outward projection of spirit. It is more of a metaphysical concept. So again, if it is a metaphysical concept, you don't know how to measure it empirically. Then there are some other thinkers like Feuerbach. He's saying alienation is manifested in the form of religion. Certain attributes man wants to have, certain qualities he wants to have. But if he does not have those qualities, he will attribute it to some other non-existing entity. For example, we want to be stronger, but we don't have that strength. Maybe we'll make one god, we'll create one god, and we'll say that worshipping this god can give us strength. For example, in case of India Hindu religion, maybe Hanuman is one of the god who can give you strength. So indirectly what you're trying to do is you are assigning certain attributes which you could not have to some non-existing entity. So that is alienation as per Feuerbach. And he's basically saying that when we use these terms, we lose ourselves the more we surrender to God. The more we lose ourselves, the more we surrender to God. This depicts nothing but self-alienation. These are the statements which are quite frequently used in religion. You want to lose yourself to the Almighty. So these are some metaphysical concepts, some concepts related to religion. But Marx differs here. For Marx, alienation is real. He's transforming the metaphysical nature of alienation to a sociological one. He's saying alienation exists in real. Alienation is actually that psychological state which results as a consequence of certain sociological factors. So alienation is real and it is rooted in the nature of the society. This is alienation for Marx. And he gives the reason how alienation got initiated in the beginning, how the nature of alienation has transformed, and what is the present manifestation of alienation. So we discuss them one by one. Now, how alienation develops over a period of time. Now he says in the early stage, man was alienated from nature. Then man is developing technology. He's developing the different forces of production. These forces of production helps him reduce his alienation from nature. He's basically utilizing nature now. The forces of production are helping him utilize nature because of forces of production, because of development in the field of forces of production, because of development in technology. Specialization is increasing. It is also leading to division of labor. His control over nature increases, and as a consequence, his alienation from nature declines. But this alienation has now got transformed into the social sphere. In the social sphere now, division of labor has increased, specialization has increased, leading to division of labor, and this has resulted in alienation. The same factor, division of labor, which had reduced his alienation from nature, is leading to increase in alienation in the social sphere. In society, what is happening, especially in capitalist society, which is characterized by high division of labor, there is high level of specialization. It is leading to partial nature of activities. I can do certain activity, I will handle only a part of the task. I know certain activities, but that will be a very small part of the entire task. So there is high level of specialization now. And in capitalist society, the institution of property, it has also reached its peak. The relationship that is there between people, it is more of a contractual nature. Now, because of this, because of specialization, because of division of labor, because of institutionalization of private property, alienation has also become, or it has reached its peak. It is at its extreme form. And now this entire process, what is happening in this process? Your labor is becoming commodified. Ideally, the labor that you are carrying out, the activities that you are carrying out as a consequence of labor, that should be the reflection of an individual. But that has now become a commodity in itself. It is being sold in the market. So commodification of humans' creative power is taking place. Objectification of humans' creative power is taking place. Why does it say that? See, I am using my labor, I'm using my labor, I'm creating something. But what I am creating, I have no control over that. The process I do not have any control. The owner, the capitalist, he decides what needs to be created, he decides what are the steps to be followed, and finally, my product of labor is also appropriated by him. So in this way, there is alienation. We will look at it in details. We'll look at it step by step how this gradually pans out. But keep this in mind that initially man was alienated from nature because of development in the forces of technology, improvement in technology, development of forces of production. His alienation with nature got declined. But here, what is happening? Improvement in division of labor is leading to decline in alienation from nature. But the same division of labor is leading to alienation in social sphere. And in the capitalist society, this alienation has reached its peak. And this alienation is manifested in multiple ways. So we'll see this, how this alienation is getting manifested. This is a very important topic, very important thing. Many times they have asked it in the exam. And also just, you should try to understand these things. You should look at it. You should try to find out examples around you. Do you feel the same? Do you see any resentment among workers who also feel the same thing? So whenever you're looking at any conflict, just try to relate it with these things. So Marx is saying that labor, man, is alienated from the product of his labor, the thing that he's creating, he's alienated from it. Why is it so? He's saying the product, what kind of product has to be decided, who has to be made, is decided by the capitalist, the owner. And at the end, it is also appropriated by him. And the worker does not have any control over it. The owner takes it, he sells it in the market. So he gets alienated from the product, the fruit of his labor. Now, Marx says the man is also alienated from the production. Now, when it comes to the production, the entire process, it is decided by the owner. All the decisions are taken by the capitalist. And here, another thing is happening. The entire task is actually divided into smaller parts. And the liberal just handles a part of it. He might not even relate to the entire structure. And which part he will carry out, that is decided by the capitalist. And again, related to that also, what kind of activity he is going to carry out, from what division he should carry out, all these decisions are taken by the capitalist. So he is alienated from the process of production. Apart from being alienated from the product and from the production, man is also alienated from himself. Now, labor is a way by which you express yourself. Human beings' creative potential finds expression in the form of labor. But now what is happening is, labor is not the same. It has just become a commodity. It is a commodity which can be sold in the market. So labor is not giving him any satisfaction now. Labor has now become just a means of survival. Work is no longer the manifestation of his self. It is just one commodity which has a market value now. Marx says that there is no animal apart from human being who has to work for its survival at others' bidding. All the animals, they just live for themselves. But here man, he has to survive, and for his survival he has to depend on the capitalist. So the capitalist, the owner of the markets, they are controlling him. So he is getting alienated from himself. Not only this, man is also alienated from society. The relationships within the society, they are now becoming contractual. There is extreme division of labor, and between people now the relationships have become contractual. The social relationships are just market relationships now. The position of a man is decided by his position in the markets. So what he used to be in the society is also changing. So his interaction with other members of the society is also getting impacted. So in this process, he gets alienated from the society as well. So man is alienated from product, man is alienated from the process of production, man is alienated from his own self, man is also alienated from the society. So this way, man, the labor gets alienated. But here, Marx is also saying that capitalists are also somewhere alienated. They are moving after false consciousness. They're just chasing some useless goals. Profits are nothing but illusion. And they are also alienated in this process. They are also self-alienated. And in this entire process, religion is also playing a very important role. This process of alienation has led to the prevalence of religion. Religion has become stronger now. People have started believing in God. And it is because they are estranged from themselves. There has been an increase in self-estrangement, and this is forcing them to move towards God. Religion is becoming the opium of the masses. If you remember, we have discussed how religion, for example, some aspects of our religion, for example, karma theory, how it justifies your present position. Now man is alienated, he's estranged, he's facing so many issues. But religion will give him some assurance. For example, karma theory among Hinduism, it will say that presently, whatever you are suffering from, that is as a consequence of something you did in the past. So people here will not understand that they are suffering because of the exploitative systems. They are blaming it on some other fact. So religion is justifying that. Or religion also gives them that sigh of relief. It is the soul of the heart and soul. For another example, karma theory, it says that yes, you are suffering because you did something in the past, but now if you continue whatever you are doing, in the next life you might have a better chance. So they get some hope, they get some optimism because of religion. It is a prayer in the sigh of misery. So religion also becomes more prevalent as a consequence of man's alienation from all these things. So this is how Marx puts alienation. How it is different from Hegel's concept, how it is different from Feuerbach's concept. They were more of metaphysical nature. His is rooted to social reality. Now there has been some criticism to Marx's approach towards alienation. So one prominent criticism is by Weber. We'll discuss each of these one by one. Now Weber says that alienation is inevitable feature of any modern society, and it does not depend on how these properties or how means of production is or our own. He says that in any modern society, there will be alienation because of rationalization of social life. Bureaucratic organization is a very predominant feature in modern societies. Different organizations have to be managed, different structures have to be managed. For that, you need to have bureaucratic organization, and Weber talks about the need of bureaucratic organization. Need is why we need them in a modern society. And since we are having bureaucratic organizations, it will lead to persistence and prevalence of impersonal rules. Rules are not personal any longer. So if rules are not personal, in that case, these human qualities get destroyed. as a consequence of which there can be alienation. So it is inevitable in any modern society. It does not depend on ownership of the means of production. C. Mills gives us another approach. Specifically, he's talking about these modern societies, American society. He's saying one of the reasons for alienation is the growth of tertiary sector, the services sector. In modern industrial societies, the services sector has grown significantly, and it could be a reason for the growth of alienation. What is the reason here? Now, previously, individuals had to develop skills for things. How do you handle particular things, particular object? Those kind of skills were imparted, and you had to be specialized in those kind of skills, and in your day-to-day activity, you have to handle that, you have to do that. But now the skills with things have been replaced with skills with persons. The entire services sector, you have to deal with other people, you have clients, and they are human beings. Now, because of this, there has come up a personality market. Just think about it. See, when you are going to a mall, you might have observed this thing. When you are entering into a retail chain, the prominent ones, you will see someone is coming and they are smiling, they are greeting you. See, this is the skill that they have to inculcate. See, they might not be happy to meet you, but they have to behave in a particular manner. In their own homes, the watchman over there, the security person, in his own home, he might be facing a lot of issues, but he has to smile over there. Similarly, in a hostess, she also has to behave in a particular manner. She always has to be bubbly, chirpy. So, here what is happening? Mills says that this is prostitution of personality. You are basically behaving in a particular manner and you are getting paid for that, for some pecuniary gains. And in this process, you get alienated from your own self. Your personal life, something is going on, but your professional life demands something from you. So because of that, there is a conflict, there is an imbalance, and it can lead to alienation. Now, another perception, another approach has been provided by Matthews. He says, in present modern societies, work and leisure both are alienating man from his true self. Work is very difficult, it is exhausting, it is stupefying, it takes away all your energy, it demands a lot from you, and consequently what has happened? A leisure industry has also come up. But this, the kind of leisure industry you have, it is nothing but a pursuit of false needs. You are, and for a very small period of time you might feel good, but this is not something sustainable. You are just like a happy robot. For temporarily, you get some benefits, you are happy, but then again it's the same thing. In the past, man was poor and miserable. In the present society, man is happy and miserable. So this is the reason he's becoming alienated. Seaman is giving another concept here, another approach. He says, alienation can be decomposed into 5 dimensions. Alienation means powerlessness, it means meaninglessness, it means absence of any norm, it means isolation, it means self-estrangement. And he's saying that we need to find out some parameters to measure all these things. So alienation has even a large connotation for Seaman. Robert Blonder, he's talking about another dimension. He's trying to link technology and alienation. He says that alienation can also depend on the kind of job you have, kind of sector you are working. And he plots a graph like this. This is more of a symmetrical graph here at the center, inverted U graph. So he's saying, and this alienation is on this axis, this is the kind of work that you carry out. Now he's saying that those who are working in the craft sector, among them alienation is less. See, craft sector, the entire thing you might be handling on your own, you are creating something. So you might not be alienated from the process of production, you are having ownership over the product. So alienation is less. Alienation reaches its peak in assembly line industries. Assembly line, you handle just a part of the process. Everything is regulated by some other person. The manager class or the owner, the other ones who take this, who decide everything. So it is maximum when it comes to the assembly line industries. But over time, this alienation can also decrease with the emergence of process industries, with the emergence of automation. If most of the activities are getting automated, you also have some role to play. So you are handling the remaining work here. So alienation depends on the kind of technology. So this has been some of the approaches which criticize Marx. At the same time, they shed some new light on alienation. But whatever be the thing, from all these things we get a very new, fresh objective about alienation. So it is no longer based on just objective conditions, but it needs to be identified with subjective disposition. So this is about alienation. Please look at the go through the questions and try to solve these some questions related to alienation. Thank you. So the next topic we'll take up is class struggle. So in this topic, we'll understand what are classes according to Marx. What kind of relationship is there between different classes? What kind of equation it was in the past? And then in future, as per Marx, what is going to happen? What is going to be the consequence? And we'll also look at some of the criticism to Marx's approach towards his predictions. So we'll understand all these things in this particular session. And again, class struggle is explicitly mentioned within the syllabus under Marx. So we'll start the topic. So in the screen, you can see, so what is class struggle? Now, Marx uses the concept of class and class conflict to explain conflict and change in society. How society has undergone different phases of change. What have been the conflicts? All these things he's looking at it from the perspective of class and class conflict. But what do you understand by class? We need to understand what is class, then only we can understand this. Now, according to Marx, class is a collectivity or a group of people who are similarly related to the forces of production. Collectivity or group of people who are similarly related to the forces of production. What do you mean by this similarly related? That means if there is a particular product, either you can be an owner or you are a non-owner of the product. So how you are related to the product, that is going to define your class. See, we are talking about 19th century. Just keep this in mind. So in 19th century, this was the concept. So either you are an owner or you are a non-owner. So who is owning this? Force of production is the owner. Those who are not owning it, they are the non-owner. The owner controls all the economic activities. They are the ones who own the means of production, so they have the control over all the economic activities. One thing to keep in mind, Marx at different places he's talked about class, but there can be some inconsistency. Not everywhere he will be referring to, not everywhere this definition of class will fit. So there is some inconsistency, but more or less this is what he refers to by class. For example, in some places he has referred to as something called as the intellectual class. Are intellectuals a class? Again, you might not agree with this, but according to him, yes, intellectuals can also be a class. They own the mental means of production. So that way you can say they can form a class. And one thing, when it comes to class struggle, Marx had given a very important statement. He's saying the history of hitherto existing societies is the history of class struggle. So indirectly, this particular statement is talking about human societies have evolved through class struggle. And different stages of human society, you will find formation of different distinct classes, and there has been struggle among these distinct classes. We'll see that in a while, what kind of struggles they have had. Now, we'll understand how class division originates and what have been the different kind of divisions throughout society. The first stage, the stage of primitive communism. It is the first stage in the evolution of human society. In this stage, everything is held together. Commonly, people are holding things. You do not have any surplus. There is joint control over the forces of production. Forces of production refers to the technology, the knowledge. Since everyone is holding all these things jointly, there is no system of classes here. But gradually, over a period of time, surplus develops. Now you are having more than what is required. So you have met your subsistence needs. Apart from that, also you have something extra. Now, this surplus is appropriated unequally. Some people have access to it, some people gain hold of it, some people do not have it. Marx did not write how this happens, how this unequal appropriation takes place. But then there are other thinkers who have tried to explain. One of the dominant theories, maybe those who had access to power, military power, they were able to access more of it. They had military power, so indirectly they were able to control political power, civilian bureaucracy maybe, and then they were able to control over the surplus. Now, once you have taken over the surplus, now you have to protect it. That should become your private property. So you are now using different mechanisms, or you are institutionalizing different mechanisms, so that your surplus can be protected. It remains with you. So the concept of private property develops now. That this particular thing is mine. I am related to it in a particular manner. I own it. I control it. So from surplus, this concept of private property comes to be previously everything belongs to everyone. Consequently, classes shift. And over a period of time, you will find a different kind of classes in human society. It starts with primitive communism. After that, you are having a slave society. Society is divided into two classes. One class is master, another class is slave. And here again, land and private property, here also it exists in the form of slaves. Slaves are the private property here. Land is there, apart from that, slaves are also considered to be private property of individual. Next phase, the feudal society. Here again, there are two classes, the feudal lords and the serfs. Here again, land again is the private property here. In the next phase, the capitalist society. Here also there are classes, capitalists versus the proletariat. So this way, society has emerged over a period of time. This way, classes have formed. And now, this way, there have been different classes at different points of time, and Marx envisages that the next stage after this capitalist society, again there will be a new kind of communist society, and this communist society again will be classless. So primitive communism, it did not have any class, there was no surplus over there, and there was no unequal appropriation because there was no surplus. So there was no classes, and in future after the capitalist society, again you might have a society which is classless, again one more communist society can form. That is what he had envisaged. Now he also gives some examples how there can be change from one kind of society to another. He talks about how feudalism leads to emergence of capitalism. Within feudalism there were different kind of forces, emergence of different kind of forces within feudalism itself, which led to formation of the capitalist society. Here what happened was there was a conflict between two kind of minorities. One minority is the remnant of the feudal order, the feudal society, in that there were some owners of production, the feudal lords, and then a new bourgeois was coming up, a new owner of production was coming up, the bourgeois. So among the old and the new forces of production, among the owners of the old and the new forces of production, there was a conflict, and it is leading to a formation of a capitalist society. And he's saying that within the capitalist society also, there will be different forces, and these forces will destroy the society, which can lead to formation of an advanced communist society. And he is identifying these forces. So we'll discuss these forces. What kind of forces? He's saying that within capitalist society, there will be a trend towards pauperization, there will be a trend towards polarization, and then there will be a trend towards homogenization. These three things will happen, and it will lead to the destruction of capitalist society, and a new classless communist society will come to be. So we take this up one by one. What do we mean by these things? What is pauperization? See, as you can see, the root word here is pauper. That means those who are poor. Okay? Now, Marx is saying that as capitalism advances, it will lead to impoverishment. It will lead to increasing miseries. People will become more with the advancement of capitalism. Now, he gives some numbers also to justify it. Now, for example, let's look at any particular factory and industrial scenario. Now, for any production process, you need to have some capital equipment. You also have to pay some wages to the labor, and then you also will have to make some profits, or else you cannot survive. Now he's saying, he's using certain terms for this. He's denoting capital with C, profits with S, surplus, and again wages is referring to as V. Now $150 per year might be spent on the capital per capita. $250 is the labor wages per year. $100 is the profit. So the final cost is $500 per year. Now as capitalism advances, there is increasing competition. So you cannot increase this price, the final cost at which you are selling your commodity. But since there is competition, you cannot also decrease your quality. The quality has to be maintained. You need to maintain, you need to retain the quality, and prices cannot be increased. And since there is competition, you also need to focus on innovation. So if you're not innovating, you are losing out market share. So for innovation, again, you have to spend the money on capital. Prices cannot be increased. Capital, you have to spend more on it. Again, you need some profits. So even if you decline profits, you can decline it to a particular limit. But again, you need profits so that you can invest it back. Initially, what you can do is maybe you can sell more of your goods, and that way you can generate some money. But again, there is always this limit to it. So what other thing you can do is you can reduce the wages. Or at present, you can see that a laborer is getting just half of what he is. Just 250 by 500 is just half of the product, cost of the product. But what might happen is over a period of time, this share will also decline, and this has progressively reduced. And not necessarily his wage will decline, but his contribution, the share that he gets out of the product, it becomes less over a period of time. So not that the proletariat is becoming poor in absolute terms, but his share is declining over a period of time because you will reduce it. You might increase other factors, but his share will get reduced. The $250 that is there, it will get reduced to the overall cost. So what you can see here is indirectly, Marx is talking about relative deprivation here. So what is happening here? So the worker, the laborer, he is becoming poorer relatively, and he might actually be poorer, or he might become relatively poor. But whatever be the case, his share of the total revenue is declining. And sometimes what happens, especially when it comes to capitalism, see, capitalism has this inherent tendency of overproduction, tendency to overproduce. Now, if you are overproducing, so again there will not be that much demand in the market. So again, it can lead to recession. So capitalism is linked with this particular characteristic. There is boom and slump. Now, whenever there is recession, whenever the economy is not performing well, they have to face unmeasurable miseries. So already the share of their income to the revenue is declining, and at the same time, sometimes there can be recession, which also makes their life even more miserable. So what is happening here is capitalism is progressing. More number of industries might come up, owners can get benefited, but it is at the cost of the proletariat. The share of the workers' income to the revenue decreases over a period of time. So polarization takes place. Now another trend that is happening is polarization. Now Marx says that in the society there were different classes, and in 1848 he's saying that there were around 7 classes in Germany. In some other places he's saying there were at least 6 classes. But as capitalism progresses, the intermediate classes, they will move towards either of these poles, and at the end there will be only 2 classes. So either you will belong to class A, which is the ownership class, or you will belong to the proletariat class. See, those who are in the middle, the petty bourgeois, or the other remnants of the feudal order, they will gradually be pushed downwards. They will not be able to compete with this petty bourgeois. They will not be able to compete with the bourgeois. So the society will get divided into 2 hostile groups: the capitalists and the proletariats. The capitalists, the bourgeois. And you will also observe that the better managed firms, they will survive. The weaker firms, the poorly managed firms will not survive. And you might also observe these things in India as well. Post-90s, there have been different kind of reforms. We have opened up our economy. So different multinational companies have come up. And as a consequence, the smaller firms, they have gone up. So, for example, there were many other soft drinks. They do not exist now. Coca-Cola, Pepsi, they are the ones who dominate the market. So this thing can happen in a society with advancement of capitalism. You are either on this side or you are on this side. So the intermediate classes will no longer exist. From 7 classes, you might become just 2 classes. So this is called polarization, movement towards 2 opposite poles, and consequently the hostility also comes up between them. The next thing, it talks about is homogenization. Now, workers, they will be working under the same roof. They will be working under the same conditions. They will also be subjected to similar kind of exploitation. Now, because of this similar kind of conditions, they will develop some horizontal ties. Previously, there was a vertical tie, or between the feudal lords and serf. This tie used to be vertical. Now, all the soldiers, they're coming together in one place. They are able to interact with one another. They are able to talk about their hostile work conditions. They are able to understand the issues they are facing. So because of which, there will be horizontal relationship. And because of these horizontal ties, there will be a class consciousness among them. They will become conscious of their class position. Previously also they were the same class. They belong to the same socio-economic background, but they were the non-ownership class. Their relationship with the means of production was different from an owner's relationship with the means of production. But now they are becoming conscious. And because of this consciousness, there will be a change now. Class in itself will become a class for itself. And this is going to be a big change. And in this process, the middle classes, the upper classes, some of the members of these middle class, upper class, intelligentsia, can also help them, can also mobilize them. Marx felt that he was one of those people who is helping these people proletariat develop this class consciousness. So since they are all coming together under one roof, they're able to exchange their ideas, it is leading to solidarity, it is leading to horizontal mobility. And this can have large consequences. So popularization, polarization, homogenization are characteristics of capitalism. So now popularization is happening. So the proletariat, they realize that they are gradually becoming poorer over time. Their share in the economy is gradually declining. The society has been divided into 2 classes, 2 poles. And among the proletariat, there is this feeling now, there is a solidarity now, there is some horizontal bonding now. They have become a class for itself. They have developed subjective awareness of their objective reality. Now, what will be the consequence of all these things? Now, they might form political groups. They might become organized. They will try to become the majority here. And again, what kind of action they will take will also depend on the kind of society they are in. For example, if there is a society which has stability, which has institutionalized mechanisms for protest, so in that case they can use peaceful means. For example, in a country like England, they could have used peaceful means. But in case these means are not there, the mechanisms by which you can resent, you can express your opinion, all these mechanisms are not there, then they can resort to violent means. And they would want to capture power, and by capturing power, they would try to abolish private property. You remember how from surplus classes develop, and again how these classes, since they have the surplus, they would want to protect their own property. So they would try to institutionalize the mechanism of private property. So now since proletariat, they are capturing power, they would want to have a classless society, so they will abolish private property. And now this particular society, everyone is equal. There will be one party, the Communist Party, will be ruling over them. And this kind of polity will be a dictatorship of proletariat. Since private property has been abolished now, there is no need for the creation of a state. State is only a mechanism which protects the vested interests. State is a mechanism by which private property is protected. But since there is no concept of private property in the society, we don't need a state. So a future communist society will be formed, and this future communist society will be a classless society, will be a stateless society. But since the concept of state is not there, we don't need the concept of nation. The concept of nation will wither away. Now all are equal in the entire world. The entire world will be one. And this particular world will ensure a wholesome life. In this particular world, man will work according to his capacity, but he will receive according to his needs. This is a world in which man will no longer remain alienated from the process of product, from himself, from the society. He will lead a very fruitful life. Thus, true human history will begin with communism. So post-capitalism, the new society that will come up will be a communist society. And this communist society will ensure proper human development. Human beings will no longer be alienated, and they are going to lead a very wholesome life. This is what was envisaged by Marx. Was he correct? Have we seen any communist society till now? Just think about it. We have never seen any truly communist society, the kind of thing that Marx talks about. We have seen instances of communism, but they have been instances of state-led industrialization or state-led capitalism. One thing here, he's criticizing the capitalist society like anything, and he's praising communist society, but he has also admired some of the features of capitalist society. For example, he says that the innovation, that is one of the implication of capitalist society, that is really good. Capitalist societies are really innovative. That is something he has praised in capitalist societies. But he says that the foundation of capitalist society is on the basis of greed, and something whose foundation is on the basis of greed is not sustainable in the long run. So he has criticized that, and we have not seen formation of any completely communist society. Now, what has been some of the criticism of Marx's view on class conflict? So first, Weber criticizes Marx when it comes to class. Now, according to Marx, there has been class for a long time now. Only in the initial phase we had primitive communism. At that point of time there was no class, but after that we had slave society, we had feudal society, we had capitalist society. In all societies there were classes. And after capitalist society, the kind of society that will constitute the communist society will not have class. That is what Marx says. But Weber says class is a group of people who share common market situation. So according to Weber, class is a group of people who have equal opportunity of deriving rewards from the market. So his idea of class is different. And he's saying only in modern societies you have class. In previous societies there were differences, there were divisions, but they were not class divisions. Rather they were status-based divisions. They were all status groups here. So there was no class in the previous societies. Now what is Weber saying when it comes to popularization? Marx said that the proletariat, people they will become poorer over a period of time. This progressive impoverishment, their share in the economy is going to decrease. But Weber is saying there is not going to be any progressive population. With advancements of technology, skills have improved, the education levels have improved, and now since skills are improving, you are also getting paid for the kind of work that you do. So your income improves with improvement in skills. You will not get poorer. Then Weber also talks about polarization. Marx had said that a society which has some 6 to 7 distinct classes, it will get polarized. It will move towards a situation in which there will be only 2 classes, the proletariat and the capitalist. Now Weber is saying that there is no such trend towards polarization. Rather, there is a trend towards proliferation of classes. And he's saying these classes are going to increase further. He's saying at present there are some 4 major classes. There is this corporate middle class, there is white collar middle class, there is this petty bourgeois, there is manual working class. And over a period of time, this can even increase. He's saying yes, this white collar, this petty bourgeois that is there, they might join these white collar middle class, and this manual working class with automation they can shrink further. But polarization is not happening. What he's saying is there will be heterogeneization of working class, and what can happen is there can be this orthogonal structure. These kind of structure can be there. Large number of people will be at the middle. So because the ownership class will be less, and this manual working class over a period of time as a consequence of automation they will also shrink. This class might increase, but definitely polarization is not going to happen. Then what does Weber say on proletarian revolution? Now, in a society, there can be some people who are discontented. They have some sort of resentment, but not necessarily everyone will start revolting. There are workers who can be angry, but this anger can take different forms. It can take different shapes. Some of them would be happy to take advantage of some short-term gains. Some of them even might accept inequality that exists. They understand that this inequality is there, and it will remain like that. They cannot change this inequality. Some of them can grumble, some of them can sabotage things, some of them can go on strikes. But not everyone is going to participate in revolution. Revolution is only one kind of option out of all the options, and this option is again a very rare possibility, highly unlikely there will be revolution. These are some of the opinions of Weber. Now, some more opinions are being provided. Seeker and J. Bernard, they're also talking about certain points. They're also saying that skills are increasing over a period of time, because of which also the incomes increase. Skills are increasing, education is provided, training is provided, and accordingly you get more money in the markets. Your ability to derive rewards from the market increases. Now, so this is something which Weber also talked about. Similar thing. But another factor also is there. The inherent logic of capitalism. Now, what is the inherent logic of capitalism? If there's a capitalist economy, it is producing certain goods. There's a factory, it's producing certain goods. Now, who is going to purchase those goods? If people are become poorer, people are becoming popularized, then who is going to purchase these goods? Will capitalism survive if population is there? So the inherent logic of capitalism is you have to sell goods. And if you have to sell goods, there has to be a demand side also. And that demand side will be there only if people have money. So capitalism and consumerism do not go well with population. So population cannot happen. So people will be paid more. Another thing J. Bernard is talking about is labor is becoming bourgeois-like. Embourgeoisement of labor is taking place. So labor itself is becoming like bourgeois. They themselves are accepting the inequality. They themselves are becoming rich. This phenomenon is called labor turning into bourgeois-like. Embourgeoisment thesis. Now, apart from these criticisms, some more criticisms are there. Goldthorpe, he had done research in a plant near London, and he's finding out that they are paid like anything. They're paid really well, and they are the ones they have accepted the inequality. The trade unions are not very strong there. No proper trade unions is there because they accept the equality. That's fine. And why won't they accept it? Anyways, they're getting a very good pay. Similarly, another point of view here is whether this revolution will be there or not. Weber had already said that there's very less chance of revolution because there are different ways by which people can protest, and there are different responses to the anger, to the discontent. Another thing has been pointed out that wherever there has been capitalism, there has not been a revolution. For example, there was capitalism in Britain. We did not see any revolution. But in countries like Russia, in countries like China and Cuba, they were agrarian economies. These were the places where you are seeing revolution. So where capitalism is there, they did not emerge revolution. Agrarian economy, they are observing revolution. Also, the role of welfare state, it also plays a very important role. There might be population, there might be polarization, these things might be happening. People might be feeling bad about their objective circumstances. But here what happens? What has happened over the last half part of the century? There is the formation of welfare state. In case there is some sort of discontentment, the welfare state cushions the hardship. Different countries, they will have these unemployment vouchers. So in case you don't have a job, you have this thing. So cushioning of hardship has also taken place. State has played a role here. So again, if the hardship is getting cushioned, why will people protest? Now, Marx had envisaged that after this revolution, there will be a society in which private property will be abolished, and since private property is getting abolished, there will be a classless society. Everyone will be equal. But the question here is, even if you're abolishing private property, you're abolishing all these economic factors, you're abolishing all these, eliminating all these economic inequality, will it truly lead to a classless society? Won't there be some people who will be more powerful than others, who will be in some key positions? So, abolishing private property might not eliminate economic inequality because political inequality will still exist. Some people will be politically more powerful than others. Some of the command positions will be held by them. So, not necessarily will have a classless society. There will be divisions, differences on the basis of access to power. Now, C. Mills also has given some point of view. C. Mills is known for his work on power elite. He says that in any society, power is held, exercised by a small and cohesive group of elites. So, here also it will happen. Not necessarily the entire class is going to hold power. A small cohesive group can come up and they can hold power. The entire class will not do that. Francis Fukuyama, one of the prominent scholars, he says that with the advent of liberal democracy, there will be end of history. And he is skeptical about all these communist society. He's saying that this thing is not going to happen. Capitalism leading to communism. He's saying the final stage will be the formation of liberal democracy, and that is where the history is going to end. This way also he is different from Marx. So these have been some of the suggestions given by different thinkers. Now, apart from that, Ralph Dahrendorf, he also has some point of view. He had written Class and Class Conflict in Industrial Society, and he's saying that societies after the World War II, they have had a drastic change. The time when Marx was writing, that time the things were different. The societies were different, but at present, societies that we have there are completely different, and these societies should be referred to as the post-capitalist societies. And the social structure in the societies are marked by these kind of features. So what Marx said might have been relevant at that point of time, but they are not relevant for the present society, which is not a capitalist society, it is a post-capitalist society. So what is this typical kind of social structure? We'll see that. So in this present society, there is a decomposition of capital. Previously, when Marx was writing, at the time the capital was owned by the capitalist. Now this capital has become smaller. It has been divided into smaller parts. What do you mean by this? The ownership of any company nowadays, most of the companies will be publicly limited companies. They will be traded in the markets. There will be different shareholders, and the shareholding might be global. And previously, the owners used to own these setups. They were the ones who used to control this. At present, what has happened? Managers are the ones who control it. So shareholders, they are the ones who are owning it, and managers are the one who is controlling it. So right now, there is no longer a conflict between owner and the non-owner. There can be a conflict between the owners itself. There can be a conflict between the manager and the labor for authority, who has greater power, who has greater control over things, over day-to-day activities. So decomposition of capital has happened. Apart from this, labor has also got decomposed. Now within labor, you will find different kinds of labor. They have become extremely differentiated. You find skilled labor, unskilled labor, white-collar labor, blue-collar labor, different labors. So in that case, how will there be homogenization? They are all different now. And again, the differences sometimes can cut across classes. That can also happen. Another thing that has happened is the middle class has expanded. Previously, Marx had said that there will be polarization, only two classes, but we are seeing the emergence of middle classes. And these middle classes, they're highly diversified. They are into different occupations. And how do you develop a class consciousness among the entire middle class? And this middle class is known to preserve its own interest. It has its own vested interest. It will think about that. So massive expansion of middle class has also been observed. Now the avenues for social mobility has also increased. The process by which you change your position in the social hierarchy. Let's say you are here in the hierarchy, you can improve your position in the hierarchy. So this thing has also happened. Better jobs have come up, educational facilities has improved, better access to education has been there. So that way, mobility is increasing. Now, if you yourself can improve the social hierarchy, why do you need to bring about revolution? So idea of revolution is becoming irrelevant now. There has also been a rise in welfare state. We have already discussed. The welfare state now, what it does, it cushions the hardships that people face. So state provides a different kind of help. State is providing help, why will people revolt against it? Now, the discontentment, the resentment that is there among the people, how do we express that discontentment? For that also different institutionalized mechanisms have come up. For example, different conflict resolution mechanisms have come up, arbitration mechanisms have come up. Previously, people were angry, they might have gone for revolution, but now those things are not there. You have conflict resolution mechanisms. In different countries, democracies, they protect the rights of the worker. You can form different associations, unions. And this way, you are able to vent out your frustration. So institutionalization of conflict has taken place. Apart from that, conflict has also become insulated. Now, in case there is a conflict in one industry, it gets limited to that industry, not necessarily it will spread to some other industry. So conflict in one industry does not affect conflict in other industries. And as a consequence, it will not spread to the entire society, to the entire country. And conflicts are also no longer that bitter as they were in the past. Because you have these mechanisms to handle it, you have better human resource practices. So as a consequence, a revolution is very unlikely. Transition of capitalist society to communist society highly unlikely through revolution. So this is what Ralph Dahrendorf talks about. So what is Ralph Dahrendorf talks about? He says that Marx ties power to ownership of means of production. So who are owning the means of production, they are controlling means of production, and that way they are very powerful. But in the present society, this might not be relevant. According to Marx, social classes are linked with property relations. But Dahrendorf is saying that this need not necessarily be true. According to Dahrendorf, class conflicts arise because of authority relationships and not property relationships. In the present society, there is a conflict over authority. There are some people who have the right to give commands, and there are some people who have to follow these commands. They are subjected to these commands. So there is a conflict between these two categories of people who can give commands and who have to follow these commands. So the society is divided into classes, and these classes are categories of people. They can be organized or unorganized category of people. And this category of people is on the basis of their position in the authority structures. Because of their position in the authority structure, their interests are also same. So those who have greater control and those who have lesser control, they will form different classes. Among them, there is always this conflict. We want greater say over the things. So this way, Dahrendorf is different from Marx. Another thing Dahrendorf is talking about is most of the people in society are unlikely to be engaged in one mighty political, social, industrial conflict. That too, that is being generated from one source, that is property relations. He's saying there will not be only one kind of huge, all-encompassing conflict. Rather, there will be plurality of basis of conflict. Multiple kinds of conflicts will be there, multiple players will be there, and they will not be all linked together. So what Marx had in his asked might not be true. It will not happen. That is the reason it is said that scientist Marx is relevant. His theories are relevant. Whatever the way he's trying to study society, the underlying structure, these are relevant. But as a prophet, he has failed. The prophecy that he has given, that particular capitalist society will give way to communist society, that way he has failed. But his theories, they are relevant. Whatever studies he has carried out, they are relevant, and they're relevant as long as they highlight the role of economic conflict and change. Economic factors, they do play a very important role in conflict and change. That way he's relevant. But as a prophet, he's not. So this is about class conflict and Marx. Please try to solve the questions at the end of this chapter. Thank you.